This is the Cryptic Creatures Podcast, and this is our 1-year anniversary special. I am Brian, and with me, as always, my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
Happy anniversary, man. We made it a year.
I know. Can you believe that? It's been a year already?
It's been quick. It's been a fast year.
I know. An exciting year.
We've done a lot, talked to a lot of people, went to some shows, had a good time.
We did. Yeah. We had a couple shows, and they were really fun.
I think one of the coolest things about doing this so far is just the people that we've met and the people that we know and we're friends with and on Facebook and social media and all that stuff, you know?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
We've met some really cool people, talked to some really cool people.
Yep.
Met some interesting people along the way as well, haven't we?
That is an understatement, my friend. We've met some very interesting people. Very super nice people. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, everybody's been amazing since we started this. So,
you know, Brian, we work at the same place, and how this all got started was we actually met each other while in Oregon.
Yeah.
Places.
Yeah, we were out there on a work trip and sitting at the bar one night, just started talking.
Right, and we found out we had a lot in common. Very close birthdays, same age.
Yeah.
And we both were into Bigfoot, and we both were doing our own podcast at the time.
Yeah.
And we got to talking, and sure enough, we said, hey, why don't we do a podcast about cryptid stuff. So here we are, 1 year later.
All things cryptid, and here we are. I can't believe it.
I can't either.
What a ride it's been.
It has. And shout out to all the listeners and supporters out there. We appreciate it.
We appreciate all of you.
Thanks for being here with us for this first year. Yeah. And more to come. So what we thought we'd do tonight, Brian, as we discussed and we put together, is we did a top 10 of our favorite encounters episodes to play for the folks tonight.
Right. And it was, let me tell you, it's not an easy thing to do to pick these.
No.
All our episodes are our favorite episodes, but
correct.
We had to put some together, so
we basically picked ones that were the most popular, but yeah, we kind of just try to pick a little bit from each kind of time through the year, not all early ones or late ones, but so yeah, we're gonna play these and give ourselves a listen again. So we'll do a countdown. All right.
So I'm excited. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Okay. So are you ready? Here we go. We're gonna start with number 10.
Start with number 10. Let's roll it.
I'm not gonna say anything till afterwards. We'll just play these and we'll go. So are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
My first encounter was, I'm going to say 16 years old in 1982. And I was out in a patch of woods. I was sitting in a tree stand by myself. We had hunted that, all my life up to that point. Every time we'd gone, that's where I'd gone hunting. My father always told me, if you shoot a deer, wait 15 minutes, whistle, and I'll come over. So I was sitting there, it was probably about mid-morning, and I had a deer go by. I took aim at it, shot the deer went down, got back up, ran. I watched it go on the path that it went. It came back in to the right of my tree stand, and I heard it fall. So I waited the 15 minutes, whistled, and my dad come along. And before he came along, probably about 5, maybe 8 minutes before he came along, I saw what looked to be a person walking on the same path the deer had been on. Walking slowly, it looked like it had a darker colored clothing, maybe like camouflage type clothing on it. It was about 110 yards out. This thing looked much larger than my father. I said, well, geez, that's an awful big guy. I followed the blood trail, same direction as this person had walked up and around. Followed it to the spot off to the right, up from my tree stand where I'd heard the thing fall. And there was a pool of blood there, but the deer was just gone.
Oh,
there was no deer,
wow.
No person, no nothing. That's where I had my first encounter with a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, or what Native Americans up here call them is Pamula. Some of the other Native Americans up here go on what we've seen and what we've heard and so on and so forth. So anyway, that was my first encounter.
Good old Mike Vachon from
Good
Maine.
old
Remember Mike?
Yeah, I remember Mike. I think what made that interview the coolest was his accent.
Yeah, definitely. He has the Maine accent for sure. Yeah, he is a good guy. I like Mike.
Oh yeah, super nice guy.
With the Maine Bigfoot Foundation, is that right?
That's right. Yep.
And we also talked to Janelle from there too, who had an encounter on there, which was another great episode, by the way.
Another great episode, yeah.
But yeah, Mike was good. That encounter basically sounds like a Bigfoot stole his deer, and he later on talked about how he was going to go follow it, talk to this, try to track this guy down who stole his deer, and he realized the guy or whatever.
He realized it wasn't a guy.
Well, it went way deep in the woods where no man could really even terrain, especially carrying a deer.
Especially carrying a deer, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a good one. I really enjoyed that.
That was a good one. I'll have to catch up with Mike and see what he's been up to.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if those guys are still getting out and doing their investigations and whatnot.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Yeah, so.
Sure they are.
All right, you ready for number 9?
Number 9. Yep,
all right,
let's
here
do
we
it.
go. Number 9.
The government is covering shit up.
Right. Brian, I got to tell you something, man. For a long time, I battled with the fact of believing in Bigfoot. Should I believe? Should I not believe? My heart and soul said, people are seeing this thing. They're not making this up. But why aren't we finding bodies? Why isn't there more evidence?
Right, exactly.
And I battled with this for a long time, trying to figure out, what's going on here until, something like we're talking about tonight, the Miller documents hit me. There very well is government conspiracy and cover-up involved in this thing we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot. I truly believe that 100% of my heart.
Sure.
The government knows these things exist, and they're keeping them covered up on top of the fact that they're not only elusive and they hide in caves and whatnot.
In trees, from what we've read in these Miller documents.
But we're still having sightings upon sightings upon sightings because it's going to happen. It's going to happen, right? These things are out there.
Absolutely.
People are venturing in their world and they're in ours.
Well, especially now. I mean, people are outside more and more now. They don't want to go stay in hotels and shit. They're out camping more. They want to get outside.
Yeah.
After being locked down for so long, you know, and it's going to happen. They're going to run into each other.
So the Miller documents. What's interesting about the Miller documents, they're about a doctor back in, what year was that, Brian? Do you know?
1920, let's say 29?
29.
Yeah.
He had graduated from Harvard, Yale. His name was H.A. Miller. I don't know what his full name was. He was born in 1909. He worked for the National Forest Industry and for the government. In these documents, basically talk about him being sent to different areas of the United States to examine bodies of creatures unknown to man at the time that were classified as a feral human.
Oh. Yeah, it was the late 30s.
So he goes on to say, it was at the same time that several of our team members were called to Bandera County, Texas, where the forestry biologists assigned to Edwards Plateau reported the dead bodies of strange type of feral humans. The bodies were supposedly found in or around one of the massive caves. What key words in that phrase caught your attention?
Feral humans, and found them around the caves. Now that we're reading these documents, maybe it's because the government's finding them and taking them.
So he says, when I arrived in Texas, I was surprised to find 3 bodies, 1 adult female and 2 female juveniles. I examined them as I typically would any human subject, but to my dismay, one of these creatures still seemed to be alive.
This is another interesting part, but they seem to have, what do you say, they seem to have a accelerated regeneration process.
Man, you are a talker, aren't you?
Good old Miller documents. Shut that guy up.
Oh, that was a great. I love that episode.
That one, those Miller documents, they stir up a little bit of controversy from time to time. They do. For a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
People trying to prove that they're not real. Getting taken down on Facebook like it does. You post it and then
that's happened a couple times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We put it on our group page and it got taken down several times. Several people asking for copies of this thing and digging and looking for this thing.
Yeah.
There's some controversy there, whether it's real or not, whatever people want to believe. There's some controversy related to those.
Around any Bigfoot research, there's going to be controversy until something's proven 100%,
Yeah, you just don't know.
Right.
I mean, to me, the story ties together. It makes sense.
Absolutely.
I don't know why someone would go to their lengths to create something like that. It's not like they're going to make any money on it.
Yeah, that kind of hoax. Why would they do that?
Are they that bored? You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Right. But yeah, the Miller documents, another good episode where we took a break from the guests and we talked about these documents that are interesting and intriguing.
Talked amongst ourselves.
All right. So, if any of you guys want to check these out, just be sure to go back through our list and look for these episodes and give them a listen. So,
let's do them again. They get better and better.
Right. Okay, number 8. Are you ready for number 8?
Number 8. Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
It was probably 30 years ago. I lived in the state of Oregon. It's in the Willamette National Forest, and it was approximately, I believe, about 11 miles north, going north on the trail. This one time, hunting season was coming up, and so we decided to go in backpacking. We ate lunch and we went out, checking out the areas that we normally hunt. This is about 7,000 feet above sea level. So we got in there and got in our sleeping bags and went to sleep. About 2:00 in the morning, and by the way, I carried a 44 Magnum revolver. So I'm very light sleeper. I heard these 2-legged steps coming closer. They were very hard and very defined. I would say when I heard it, judging maybe from 30 yards away. And then all of a sudden, it stopped. Whatever was coming stopped no more than 3 feet, if not closer. And I turn around and I look, and it is a very big, huge shadow. But I assume that because of the full moon behind it, that was what was making it that big. I heard the breathing, though, and I know better than to think that a person breathes that way. So I started getting confused. I know a bear doesn't walk on 2 legs for that long anyway. I know they stand in 2, but not for that long. And it kept them breathing, and you could hear very, very strong breathing. I turn around with the revolver in my hand, and I shout out because I didn't know if it was somebody fooling around or going to rob us. I was really confused. I had just woken up. I say, hey, whoever you are, do not come into the tent because I have a revolver in my hand and I will shoot. Nothing happened. The breathing continued to go. Probably about 30, 40 seconds later, we could see the shadow move to our left. And he starts walking to the left. Immediately, I was already sitting down and opened the zipper of the tent, put my knee out and look. And when he heard that, he turned around, and I tell you, my hair is standing behind my neck right now. I could see the face. It was what I consider to be a mammal that hasn't been completely discovered. This is my opinion. He turned around, we could see it all, and then he put out I call it a growl / scream. It echoed in the mountains. And I knew when I looked at that, I thought to myself, I can't stop this thing with the 44 Magnum. I estimated to be probably 9 feet tall and no less than 800 pounds, if not more. Wide, I could see the arms, I could see the hands. He then turned around and started walking in a fast pace and looked back about 2 or 3 times. And then he went off the main trail into the right towards the North Mountain. And that's it. And we never saw him anymore.
All right, good old Daniel. That was a good episode. I like talking to him, and I like that encounter a lot.
He was a lot of fun. That was a good one.
That was a really cool encounter. That was called Bigfoot at the Campsite. Was the name of that episode?
That's right. Yeah, that's
Bigfoot
right.
at the Campsite with Daniel. Yeah, that was a good one. I like talking to him.
Yep.
Really good encounter. Good description. A close encounter. So.
Yeah. He was fun to talk to.
Moving on. Number 7. Ready?
Ready. Let's get it.
Here we go.
One of my most recent encounters was back in March of this year, March 9th. And it was getting right about the right type of weather I like to go camping in. And I camp in a hammock and a rain tarp. I'm just like, screw it. I'm going to get my stuff together and I'm going to hit the woods. Something was moving around my camp, but it always stayed outside of firelight. The only way you could see it was the reflection of its eyes from the fire. This time, it came into camp after the fire went out. I was cooking that night. Here, I was struggling to keep that fire going. And I didn't have time to go up there to cut trees and split logs so that way they'd cure. Was just grabbing whatever I could off the ground around camp, trying to stock up. I'm laying in my hammock and everything, and I'm just chilling out. I'm listening to the sounds of the woods. Every so often, I'd hear something move over on the west side of my camp. I was laying in the hammock, and it was probably about maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, this thing moved in such stealth that I didn't hear it until it took 3 steps, and it was right up on me. And it was just 1, 2, 3, bam, and it hit the rain tarp and it hit me through the rain tarp of my hammock, and my hammock swung out like this, and I was ejected from my hammock. And I flew through the air about 2 foot off the ground. It all happened so fast that all I could do was scream. I went and I hollered, "Get out of here!" And I went and I scrambled, and the shotgun was loaded sitting there in a chair right next to my hammock. And it happened so fast, I couldn't even get to the gun. I gathered myself, and I still had I was in my hammock, and it hit me with such force, and I went flying out there. Well, I crawled across the ground, and I crawled up underneath the hammock after I got the gun and kicked my headlamp on, and you could see it walking down the hill. And I could have put one right in his ass if I wanted to. He was that close. The majority of my encounters that I've had, other than this one, they've all been passive. But this one is one that's been reported not just by me, but all of my neighbors out here. Our first reporting that we had of him actually came from my neighbor, where the guy had about 30 goats, and all but like 5 of them were killed. This thing has no problem coming up close to houses. We've had this happen twice here at my house. One time, my mother was laying in bed, and she was just sitting up reading a book, and the cat was sitting in the window. It was summertime, and we had the windows open, letting the air in, and the cat was sitting in the window looking out the screen. And actually, that cat just started having a fit. His tail was like that, and he was growling and hissing. And she looked over and she says, "What's wrong, Freckles?" Next thing you know, that screen comes flying out of the window, and she sees an arm reaching in for the cat.
Good old Zach.
Good old Zach. Zach Starrick. We like Zach.
Yeah, he was fun.
Zach's cool. He's had a lot of things going on down there in Southern Illinois.
Yes. Yeah, we need to get down there and hang out with him for a while.
Yeah, we had him on a live show we just did recently that we'll
we did.
eventually.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, he does his Duke Randall Outdoor Show also on YouTube. Yep. So he goes out and does some camping.
Check that out if you guys get a chance.
Yeah, definitely. Zach's a good guy.
Give Zach some love.
Yeah, for sure. Check him out. Great guy to talk to, and he's got a lot to say. And
he does. He knows his stuff.
Got a lot of stories for sure. So, and that was called Scarface Sasquatch. Was the name of his episode. So I didn't play it in that little bit, but basically he had talked about later where he had a Bigfoot and a couple females around his campground, and he
close up encounter. Right?
So it had a big scar on his face, or had been fighting or something. So he called it Scar. So Scarface Sasquatch. So definitely check that episode out, you guys, if you haven't yet. Moving on, Brian, number 6. Ready for number 6?
Number 6. Heck yeah, let's get it.
Here we go.
At age 16, I was deer hunting on the last day of deer season here in West Virginia. That year, my dad let me go by myself for the first time, and I walked about a mile out a ridge from where we parked my dad's vehicle, walked over, sat down near these 2 or 3 boulders that were there. And the biggest one was just off to my left, about 20 feet. I'd been sitting there maybe 20 minutes or maybe 30 minutes, and these 3 does came running out from behind that boulder. I heard them coming, and I saw them, and they stopped kind of off to my right, probably 30 yards from me. Their tongues hanging out, breathing heavily, and I mean, they'd been ran hard. And to a hunter, that means that there's a buck in the area and the buck is chasing the does. That wasn't what was chasing the does. I heard some noise that sounded like a buck deer making grunt sounds from behind this boulder, somewhere off behind it where I couldn't see. And I could hear the footfalls. And I was excited, as a teenager, I was going to get my first deer, first male deer. And, I was going to prove myself to my dad. And, I was excited about it. Well, out steps this 7.5, 8 foot tall creature covered in a dark auburn hair, long hair, probably 5-6 inches long, hanging off the arms and the legs, hair across its chest. Not as heavy as what the arms and legs were. It didn't have a neck. It had a chocolate-type skin on its hands and on its face. It walked out and was concentrating on where those does went, and after about 5 or 10 seconds, it just turned its complete body and looked at me like, "What are you doing here?" with a surprised look on its face. And after about 10 or 15 seconds, it started curling its lip up, exposing its teeth, growling at me. It took a step towards me. Now, this was at 20 feet. Now it's at about 16, 15 feet. And I'd already raised the rifle that I had to my shoulder. And when it took that step, I pulled the hammer back on the rifle that I had. This thing almost instantly went into a surprise look. It stopped growling at me. It shut its mouth. It finally decided to run back towards the boulder it came out from, and I could hear it running. And when it disappeared from sight, and I thought that it was maybe 50, 60 yards still running up the hollow, I got up and turned and started towards the top of the hill. And about the time I hit the top of the hill, this thing screamed at me.
Old Bear.
Old Bear's Den. He's a good guy, Old Bear.
Yeah, he is.
Got his own YouTube channel called Old Bear's Den.
Yeah, give him a listen. Yeah, give him some love.
You guys check him out on there. He's got a lot of Bigfoot stuff going on, and that was really one of the most intriguing encounters that I think we've ever heard, in my opinion.
Yeah. For
that guy to be 16 years old, out hunting by himself for the first time, I believe, wasn't it? And have one walk up like that. I mean, and he was going to shoot this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was called Sasquatch Standoff.
That's right.
So give that one a listen and check out Old Bear's Den on YouTube.
Yeah, that's another one we need to get a hold of again and see how he's doing.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got plenty of more stories he can talk to us about.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
And tell us more than we probably even can fathom. But
Absolutely.
We'll get in touch with him. All right, moving on, Brian. We're in the top 5 now.
What? 5 already?
We're in number 5 already.
All right. Let's hear it.
All right, here we go.
There is 4 of us. There's myself and there's 3 others. We're watching, and I notice a pair of red orbs, which ended up being eyes about 8 foot off the ground, looking at us. It was about our 1:30, 2 o'clock position. At first, I thought it was, a hoot owl or something. The lights was reflecting off of its eyes. And, I didn't think too much about it for a second. And and it was in October. So, it's dark out, it's cool out, and, it's one of those, a spooky time of the year to start with. I look over and I break out some of our night vision gear, look over at it. There's a freaking dog man sitting there looking back at me. So I hit the guy next to me and point over at it. And I go, "What's that?" He sits there and he drops his nods down, night vision, looks over. He looks at me. I look at him. And we're like, what the? Now, this group of people that I'm with, we're all combat veterans. We all served in the 91 Gulf War and various other places around the world. So, it's one of those, we're not a bunch of newbies that are out on our very first assignment and have no idea what the we're doing or anything. We've already been out, we've seen some stuff, and yeah. So he's looking at me, I'm looking at him, and we both get this really, it was a feeling of like, I can't say dread, but it was just one of those, it was sitting there almost like it was a decoy. It was just sitting there just looking at us. It was about 8 foot tall. It looked like your typical sort of wolf standing on two legs. I'm using the term hands loosely. Its hands look sort of like a raccoon's hands. You know how they're sort of long and digity? That's the easiest way I can try to explain what the hands look like. Now, through the night vision, I can't tell you what color the hair was because it's all shades of green, but I can tell it was a dark color. It had the ears that were, sort of like a German Shepherd. You know how they got the ears that stick straight up, sort of straight up? It had ears like that. It looking at me was enough to scare the living shit out of me. And now all of us, we were all armed as well. So I might want to throw that in. We're all packing, and we all had Beretta 9mm pistols as well. So, it's one of those, we're armed, and we're looking at this thing going, holy. We all jumped in the Humvee, and we tore out of there.
Old Lee.
Good old Lee. Remember Lee?
Oh, yeah.
That one was a cool one.
Forget that one. Yeah, that was crazy.
That was our first Dogman encounter.
That was our very first Dogman, yeah.
And we were pretty excited about that, from what I was anyway.
I was too.
And the fact that Lee was a military guy, and this happened while he was in the military, made it even better. So that one was called Special Ops Dogman Encounter.
Yes, it was.
So if anyone wants to go back and check that one out, there you go.
That was an interesting one, so definitely check that one out.
Yeah, Lee's a pretty good guy. I cleaned that up a little bit. If you do listen to the original episode, it's a little explicit.
It's a little explicit.
Yeah, Lee expresses himself pretty much openly. So
anyway,
that was number 5, Brian. So moving on to number 4.
Number 4, here we go.
All right, here we go.
I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, oh my God, what in the hell is this? It's only when I realize is we're still walking forward, looking back, that this thing's now walking on 2 legs, and it's taking its left arm and right arm, moving a tree either left or right. And then it dawned on me, that's not a bear. It's a full moon. I mentioned the American werewolf in London. The first thing in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a werewolf. These things really exist. This thing was so massive, like massive. And when you see a werewolf, in the movies, they're like tall and slender. This thing was like massively wide and tall. It's just like, the hell is this? So we're picking up our pace, walking further and faster. I keep looking back, and this thing, the strides that it took was massive. And we're walking, and this thing's walking with us. Each step, you could hear the thump. In a weird way, you can almost feel the vibrations of the thump, though it's 20, 25 feet up, probably 20 yards off. You could hear the thump, and it was just like, I keep looking at Buddy. I'm like, do you feel that? He's like, I'm trying not to think about this. Let's just get the hell out of here. He's freaking out. And I'm in shock. Like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? is this a bear or werewolf? And never dawned on me at the time, a Bigfoot. So we continuously walk, and this thing continuously follows us. And we keep walking, and I was like, buddy, pick up the pace. Try to fast walk as fast as you can. Don't run, because creatures, if you run, they like to chase. And I keep looking up to my left, above or ahead of me, and realize this thing's going to be at ground level with us, because the mountain starts coming down towards leveled with the road. And I'm like, oh shit, this is where we're going to die at. We're going to have to stop and turn around, because eventually this thing's going to be at ground level with us. And what I failed to tell your viewers and you at this time, as we're walking, Buddy's like, you know how when you're with your wife or your girlfriend, if they're walking on your right side, they take your right side of your arm, wrap their arms around. But he's wrapping his arms around me, and he's digging his fingernails inside of me because he's scared. This thing was standing broadside, looking right at us. Buddy decides to look at it. He's like, it's staring right at us, watching us. I can see its eyes looking at us. I'm like, just keep walking. Don't make any motions to piss it off. Let's just keep walking. Now it's pivoting towards our direction. I was like, that's good. Let's just keep walking. Buddy's looking back, and he grabs me and squeezes even harder. He's like, holy shit, it's walking. It's walking in our direction. I look back, and sure enough, it's walking in our direction. I'm like, oh God. If we can just get in the headlights of the truck and just run towards the truck, we'll be all right.
Oh, Alan Jackson.
That's your boy, Alan Jackson. Not the singer.
No, not the singer.
Alan was a really cool guy. He is a really cool guy.
Well, yeah, he was, and it was, man, that was probably one of our most popular episodes.
Yeah, he's a great storyteller, and he's got a really great encounter. He's got a few different encounters, actually.
Yeah.
And he knows a lot of things.
He does.
A lot of people don't know about cryptids and Bigfoot, so he's a very informative guy.
That's another one we'll have to get back in touch with and see what's going on.
Yeah, we should bring Alan back on and see what else he can. He can, just talking Bigfoot in general with him would be fun.
Oh yeah.
He had his encounter in West Virginia, and he lives around Louisville. We called that episode West Virginia Wood Booger.
That's right.
So if you guys
if you don't know what that means, look it up.
Yep. Go
give it. They call them
give it a listen. Yeah, that's what they call them down in West Virginia. The wood boogers. Yeah. The boogers will get you. The boogers will get you.
That's right.
All right, man. We're getting close. Moving on to
where are we at now?
We're on number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
All right.
3
all right, let's do it.
Mine was 1979, Brethren, Michigan, which is south of Traverse City in Manistee County. My parents had a cabin on High Bridge Road, south of the Manistee River. I'm not sure the exact time, but it was middle of the night. But it woke me up that I could hear what I thought was a wolf or a dog. Now, I'm 16. I was junior in high school. And like I said, it woke me up, this dog snarling, and the turkey just going crazy. Well, of course, without even looking, I just roll out of the bed and bang on the window, like, scaring the thing off, right? Well, it continued, and I just jerked the blinds away, and the frickin' thing stood up. I could see the snout, the ears, the whole 9 yards. And it's got 2 turkeys in its snout, and it's on its hind legs. And I got a perfect outline of the whole damn thing. Ears, snout, hind legs. I mean, it freaked me out. And I got the whole yellow side eye, like, what the hell are you looking at, kind of a thing. And it's like happy as a pig, and you know what? Because it's got 2 fat turkey birds hanging out of its snout, and it's going home to feed whatever. But then the next morning I get up, and of course I run right out to the yard, and there's guts and things everywhere.
I was 13. What I remember is it did not look like a bear, and it did not look like an ape. It looked like us, but it was a very different us. And the closer it kept on getting, the more concerned I was for my own survival. So that's when I turned around and I just hauled. It was terrifying. I mean, as a 13-year-old child, you're terrified. And then when you realize it's not a bear, I really believe it is an unknown humanoid that is somehow vectored off the Homo sapien, Homo erectus line, living a very elusive, hidden life somewhere. But I do not believe it's a primate.
Oh, yeah, Wayne and George.
Those guys were a lot of fun, man.
And they were hilarious, and they had some really great encounters.
Yes, for sure. Those guys were on the Hulu Sasquatch documentary, if you guys have seen that.
They were. If you haven't watched that yet, watch it.
Yeah, it's got them sitting in some chairs talking about Bigfoot and whatnot throughout the series. It's a really good series, too, that Hulu Sasquatch. I've watched it a couple times now. I could watch it over and over. The way it's put together is really good.
Yeah.
But those guys kind of became popular on that, and then they started No Myth with Wayne and George, so they have that
That's
going.
Right. So check out their podcast there.
Yep, check out their Facebook page as well. They go to a lot of shows, and they live near Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
And they go to a lot of shows out there, so if you guys are out there attending any kind of Bigfoot conference, a bigger Bigfoot conference like the Kelso show, or any other shows around there, they're probably there, and they do some speaking and whatnot, and they're a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
They're funny the way they interact.
They were, yeah, we just had them on our live show too.
Yeah, they were there too, doing their thing. So we called their episode Michigan Dog Man, and it was no damn bear.
That's right.
If you guys want to check that out, give those guys a listen. Talking about their different encounters, Wayne having a dog man encounter and George having a Bigfoot encounter.
That's right.
So, little known fact too, as well, George tried out for Joey Tribbiani on Friends.
He did. Right.
He was one of the candidates for him.
Unfortunately, he got beat out by Matt LeBlanc. So.
Yeah. So we've kind of had some famous people on here,
we're kind of big deals.
All right, man, we're down to the last two.
Last two already?
Yeah, it's moving right along.
Man,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
All
right, let's hear it.
Okay.
Number 2.
Here we go.
Things that may have happened in the past prior to that might have been Bigfoot things, but they wasn't looking for Bigfoot. Wasn't on the radar. They're just hunters, and they didn't even know about that. So I didn't go up there till 71 when one of the guys, after the Johnsons came out and told them how they sounds and things, and they seen this big track, and they realized something really unique is going on up there. So anyway, the hunters, all of them went back. I wasn't part of the group at the time. I was just friends with them all. And really, one of the guys got scared off. He heard the sounds, and pretty aggressive to start with. Really, you've heard them, I think. A lot of people have. And that frightened him. He was very religious. He didn't know where to put that in his paradigm. And he just, wives were worried. The guys hadn't came out when they were supposed to, and that guy ran out the next morning after the sounds and left a note for the other guys. They said, well, you got to go back and see if these guys are all right. They don't know. They just knew there was a monster up there of some kind. They didn't know. Just didn't know why I was looking for Bigfoot other than had a Bigfoot, And so he wouldn't go back by himself. He asked me if I'd join him, and I gladly did. I didn't know. It was exciting to me. And that's how I got involved in the group, 71. So that was the first time I heard sounds and saw the huge tracks that they were making, prints. And so that's the Sierra sounds. And we start with 1972 is when we got a hold of Al Berry via Peter Byrne via Ivan Sanderson to go up there and investigate and look around and try to see what's going on. 8 miles in the wilderness, 8,400 feet elevation, very imposing area to get to. And I might say it's been an exciting time. We started recording the things, and Al Berry started recording the things in 72, and he's the one that really fostered the sounds. He was a master in science. He was, nobody's a fool, I guarantee you that. He was looking for a hoax, which we didn't know at the time, but he got the sound study at the University of Wyoming for a year, showing that they were real, that they were not 60-cycle humming, which would have shown pre-recording, re-recording. There was no change in the speed alterations of the sounds. And that was Professor Curlin at the University of Wyoming. And so that was a big hurdle. That was published in 1978, actually. And he it was in a book, Man Like Monsters on Trial, his whole report. That was a big thing, but still academia said, well, something's messing around here. But he showed where the sounds were inside, outside, below, above, everywhere, within the human range, outside the human range, just incredible. So he showed that in a graph, and he was a professor. He's written over 100 professional papers. I mean, the guy's top notch. And yet academia still hadn't grabbed a hold of it, as far as these things can't talk. They got to be a primate that doesn't fall into Darwin's evolution or nothing like that. So,
Ron Moorhead.
Talk about famous people, Mr. Moorhead.
That was probably the biggest one we've had on the show so far. Hopefully we can get some more.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Ron Moorhead is famous for the Sierra sounds recorded back in the early 70s in Sierra Mountains in California.
That's right.
Where they had a hunting camp way up in the remote wilderness. I don't even think park rangers knew about it because they found it years later and made them shut it down due to fire hazard and whatnot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were interacting with these creatures at night and hearing things, and they recorded the Sierra sounds, which is, if you haven't heard of, we also play those on that episode. So if you want to look that up,
so if you listen to that episode, that's the Ron Moorhead and the Bigfoot Science.
Yep. Give that one a listen, and you can hear the Sierra sounds on there and hear what these things are doing. It's very strange.
You ever wondered what a Bigfoot sounds like when he talks?
Yeah, they have a language and they talk to each other in kind of a weird jibber jabber kind of language. And they proved with these recordings that they weren't man-made.
And he talked about that on that clip.
Yeah. So it was great talking to Ron and for him to come on with us. So
it was.
Felt really privileged to have that guy on, man. As famous as he is in the Bigfoot community.
He took the time to talk to our little show.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
So shout out to Ron and keep doing what you do, man. We appreciate that.
Heck yeah.
Being
we love it.
The investigator and Bigfoot enthusiast that he is. So
that's right. And check out his books.
Yep.
Check out his newest book, Quantum Bigfoot. If you haven't. Yeah. Pick that up.
All right, my friend. We are down to number one.
The big number one of the year.
Big number one. I think we chose this one due to popularity and just the number of downloads we had in general.
Yeah. Yep. This was probably the biggest episode.
Yeah.
That we had.
Yeah.
With one big glaring question at the end, but we will cover that when we're done with this clip. So.
Correct. Those of you who've heard this, we know what we're talking about.
That's right.
So, okay, man. Are you ready? Number one?
Let's get number one.
Okay.
I turned my head and was looking that way, and I seen something black come out of the thistles. What I'm looking at is either the biggest dog on the planet, or I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. But I'm like, that ain't no damn dog. What the hell is that? What the F is that? What the blank is that, man? I just know it's big, and I see a dog head with ears. And then as I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, are those shoulders? This thing raised its head and looked right at us. It came forward 2 steps. And by the time it took that second step, the front 1/4, maybe a little bit more of his body was in the light where I could see it. But as it was coming forward, when it put its hand out into the light, where it came right out into the circle of light, I seen a hand. The fingers might have looked like an older person, maybe with arthritis in the joints. But other than that, for all intents and purposes, it's a hand. And it's got 3-inch, 2.5, 3-inch claws coming off of each finger. So I'm looking like, what in the blank is that? The claws were curved. It put his hand down on the ground. The fingernails would hit the ground, but the very tip of the fingers wouldn't rest on the ground. She could have reached out and grabbed my head and picked me up. When she was coming forward into the light, there was no internal eye glow. The only eye glow I seen was when she came into the light and her eyes caught the light that was available. That's when they glowed. And the color that best described me is a dead yellow. She looked right at me. But she looked at everybody else too. But she did one smooth motion, like, but it was just a slight hiccup, like, okay, see you. And then she went right back to focusing on the dude that had the gun. She laid her ears back and growled. I stood right there and pissed on myself. And I'm not ashamed to say it. It wasn't very loud. It was almost like she didn't want anybody other than the people that were there to hear her. but I felt that in my body. I don't know if it hit me and went from my head down to my chest or came from my feet up to my chest. These things can move some air by not putting a whole lot of effort into it. I mean, it was like, ugh. And then you add about 8, 9 octaves of that, and then you can actually feel it hit you. That's when I started thinking, you getting ready to die. You getting ready to die, dude. And it's not going to be a pleasant death. You're going to feel every bite, every shred, every rip. It's a wrap, Roy.
Roy Stubblefield.
It's your boy Roy Stubblefield.
That's right.
Dogman encounter.
Great episode that was. Yeah.
Man.
Out in Louisiana.
Rougarou. That guy can tell a story too. How he describes the details of everything and the settings and puts it all together. He just really knows how to talk about his encounter and how it happened.
That was he told that perfectly.
Yeah. One thing that happened in the story for those of you who have listened, if you haven't listened to it, be sure to check it out. The episode's called "It's a Werewolf, I'm Gonna Die." Roy's been on the Terror in the Woods or These Woods Are Haunted show talking about this too.
Yeah.
If you want to try to look him up on there. I'm not sure what season it was, but that's how we kind of got a hold of him, and we looked him up, and he came on and talked to us.
That's right.
And one of the things in the story he talks about is when he goes to meet this girl somewhere. He's at a basketball court at nighttime, and there's some guys playing basketball, and one of them's name's Herman. And Herman befriends him, and what happens is during the episode they encounter a dog man on the railroad tracks, and Herman's pretty much the victim. He gets kind of knocked down, and this thing's standing over him.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, they get out of it, and Herman's hair has a spot on his head that turns white. He's like freaked out. His grandmother's like, "What'd you do to my kid?" And they take him home. Is he on drugs? What happened to him? And Roy empathized for Herman. He really cared about this guy and what happened to him. Because he was the guy that was nice to him. So we never finished the story. As Roy's episode was kind of getting longer, and we never found out what happened.
So we
to
never
Herman.
got the finish for Herman.
Right, and a lot of people were asking us, about that. We'd really like to know what happened to Herman. What happened to Herman? And we're like, yeah, we kind of want to know what happened to Herman too.
Right.
We do know that he got back to his grandmother's house, and he was left there after they'd called the cops because someone thought he had done something to him or drugged him. He was so out of it. That's all we knew. That's what it was left at. So a lot of people were inquiring what happened to him. So we tried to get Roy back on the show to come back and talk. He's kind of been, I won't say reluctant, but he's just not ready to come on and talk about it. But he did pass on the information to us. And so we know what happened to Herman.
Finally.
So Herman, we talked to Roy, and he kind of fills us in. Basically, what happened was he went back to look for any of the guys that he was with in this episode that they encountered the dog man, specifically Herman. And he said, "Hey, man, if anyone knows a guy, who's got like a white patch on his head, in this area, I'd like to get in touch with him. I'd like to know who he is." And he said, time went by, and then he got a message from somebody saying that, I think you're talking about my dad. And so Roy gets in contact with Herman's son, who in the episode wasn't born yet. He were talking about, him having a kid.
Right.
So this is the kid. And Roy gets in touch with him and tries to find out what happened to his father. So the kid's like, "Well, how do you know my dad?" And the kid seemed very offish about the story that Roy told him about how he knew. And the kid's like, "I don't believe that. You guys didn't see a dog man. My dad was just nuts. My dad had issues. He was unstable." And so Roy's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And basically the kid said, "I was 7 when my dad died. But what I remember, he was paranoid. He couldn't go out of the house. He constantly was staring out the windows, scared to go on a car ride. Heaven forbid you get him near any kind of railroad tracks. He just lived his life. This thing affected him so much. He lived his life in such fear that at the age of 30, his heart basically just gave up on him and he died, had a heart attack.
Oh.
So that's what
too
happened.
bad.
That's what happened to Herman.
That's what happened to Herman. That's a terrible story.
Like Roy said, the thing didn't kill him then at the time, but it killed him eventually.
Eventually. Yeah.
So, people don't know how traumatic some of these things can be. And, like our crazy asses, we want to go out and see one. We want to encounter one. We would probably be like, why did we ever in the world want to do that?
Yeah, no kidding. I doubt that, but we'll see.
No, I don't either. But I guess I'm prepared for it. A lot of people that see things aren't prepared for it.
Right.
I would be like, okay, cool. What's this? Maybe. I don't know. But,
but you never know until it actually happens. So, I mean, we can sit here and talk all we want, but we would never know our reaction until it actually happened.
Right.
Man,
let's hope someday it does, Brian. Let's hope someday we're both on an excursion
That's what
again.
we're going to be working on.
And once again, my friend, congratulations on a year together doing this show with me.
One whole year, man. It just gets more fun every time we do it.
It's been a great year, and I want to thank all the listeners and all the people who supported us.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here without you guys. So thank you.
Thank all the guests for coming on, and we wouldn't be here without them either. They've been a big, huge part of this. We put a lot of time and effort into this, and we continue to grow and try to continue to get as best content as we can out there for you guys.
And let me tell you something. If you guys are thinking about making a podcast, it's a lot of work to start, but it's a lot more work once you get this thing going and keeping it running. I mean, we love doing it, but man, it's a lot of work. Keep that in mind if you're trying to start a podcast.
For two people. I mean,
it's just me and Todd. It's not, we don't have assistants or anything.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though, but it is a lot of work. A lot of the editing, recruiting the people to come on and getting them to keep their commitments, or something happens.
But I wouldn't trade it for nothing, man. I love it.
No, it's an awesome time, and we're going to continue to try to talk to some guests with some awesome encounters and bring that to you guys.
We're always looking for new encounters.
Yep, if you've had an encounter, as we say all the time, and you want to come on the show, get a hold of us. We're everywhere.
We are everywhere.
Email us, info@cryptidcreatures.co. We got a phone number now.
8775-DOG-MAN.
Get a hold of us there. Just look us up on Facebook. We have a group page too. Instagram.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Everywhere.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So get in touch with us if you've seen something, and let's talk.
Yeah, and anything. I mean, we do everything. The show is called Cryptid Creatures, so we go from Bigfoot to aliens to paranormal.
Yep. We haven't done a Loch Ness Monster yet.
No, and I want to. I wish we could get a hold of somebody. I think we're going to have to go. We're going to fly over there and do it ourselves.
Maybe. So if anybody out there knows anybody who's had a Loch Ness Monster encounter, tell them to get a hold of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even a champ sighting.
Yeah.
That's a little closer to home.
Yeah. Probably a Wendigo. We're looking for a Wendigo too.
Maybe. The thing with the Wendigo is, there's never survivors. There's never witnesses.
Oh.
So I don't.
That's the theory behind the Wendigo. If you see one,
it eats.
If you see one, you're done.
Yeah, pretty much, because you become it. Well, I guess it depends on which legend you're.
Yeah.
We'll do a whole show on the Wendigo because we do want to do that.
What else haven't we done a show on?
All of them. Mothman.
I haven't done a Mothman show yet.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we gotta get in gear.
We got a lot of them.
We gotta make year 2 a lot more.
Year 2 is gonna be huge. That's right.
Yeah.
We're gonna be everywhere.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks for hanging out with me, and glad to be here a year with you, brother.
Yep.
Sure.
Same here, man.
And again,
one whole year down already. I can't believe it.
One whole year. And thanks again to all you guys, all your listeners, all your guests, all your supporters. We appreciate it again. So.
Yeah. Again, we couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, my friend. I will talk to you again soon. Until next time.
Right.